I mean, as someone who is fully addicted to Facebook Marketplace, and
Get off there. Chris, get off there.
it's not even that. It's just it's just the random things that I can get, not just golf clubs, but for golf clubs, I know that having somewhere specific for it and knowing that I can look for the certain specs that I need and really dive deep into it, it sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, when I said that we're tidying up the back end, we've got maybe 5,000 clubs that we can list. And so it's things like that. We're just looking to tidy up. So soon you can get off Facebook Marketplace, Chris, and you can
Don't worry.
start shopping on Gimme Market.
I'm addicted to it. I believe it.
Good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time you're listening to this podcast. 2026 is almost upon us. Can you believe it, Chris?
We are very, very close. I can't believe how quickly this year has gone.
Yeah, almost a year's worth of podcasting, which has moved into, segued, whatever you want to call it, diversified, haven't we, into some content. But most importantly, we've met some pretty amazing characters along the road, which has taught us, what?
I just find it funny.
Why?
Don't know. You're like this. It's just funny.
I don't quite think I was as
Keep
slow
it in.
as
Keep
you
it in.
actually
Keep
making
all
out
this
there.
in. This is brilliant.
Seriously. Just sometimes buttons are pressed. I just want to stay like this now.
Anyway, we've
Hands
got a
on knees.
fantastic guest for you this week to see the end of the year out. Who have we got this week, Mark?
We had the pleasure of talking to Inci Mehmet, who had talked to us all about her playing career, how it's all started, when she moved into the broadcasting element of it, and of course she has started this Gimme Market, which is quite a cool concept in a very saturated and busy market.
I really like the sound of it, I have to say, because it's kind of like vintage but for golf. I love that. Absolutely love that.
Yeah, she said that. And it was also about giving some advice if you don't know what you want. So there's definitely some USPs. Go check it out. But we had a nice time talking to Inci. I've met her a couple of times. We saw her, didn't we, at the Golf is Ruining My Life live podcast at Pitch in London, which was an amazing event.
Such a cool place.
Really nice venue, really cool evening. And, you know, things have continued, as we said, to grow from strength to strength with us. And we managed to see her at a couple of events. I saw her up in Scotland, and we managed to nail down a time, and she gave us a good amount of information.
Yeah, it was brilliant. But before you get to that, quickly, just to interrupt you there.
Go for it.
Don't forget that this is the last week of the giveaway. Next Monday is when the giveaway ends. So head over to Instagram and check out the description of what you need to do and make sure you enter, because these wedges are phenomenal. You're going to want to win these bad boys.
And not that we're presuming anyone gets stuff to sell stuff. You're going to want to keep these.
Yeah.
You're going to want to keep these because Voda are exploding. And I think that they're going to explode even more. I really, really do. I've got a feeling deep inside.
For sure.
And to say that you have some of the wedges in the setup that they've got with the black satin and the black shafts and the custom ferrules just look
gorgeous.
Yes, perfect word, gorgeous. So head on over to our page. Can you see it looks like I've got some weird my head looks like Saturn.
I love lamp.
Can you see that? It's like these little rings,
love
Saturn's rings around my head. That's weird.
Love that.
Anyway, enjoy it, guys, and go and check out all of what Inci's doing. Go and see her profiles and her links. They'll be in the show notes. Enjoy this one. Cool. Okay, let's crack on, eh? You
sorry,
good?
Yeah. Sorry, I had to go out. I've come to the end of a sinus infection, and it's just kicking outside today.
Chris, you don't need to be nervous. It's okay. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Everything will be all right. I appreciate it, but it's fine. Make yourself comfortable.
Cool.
Amazing.
Listen, Inci, thank you so much for joining us on the Halfway Up podcast. We know you're very busy, got lots and lots of projects. Some of them will come to, but we do appreciate you taking some time out of your busy schedule to join us today.
Not at all. I'm glad I got the memo with the All Blacks. So maybe I just need to get myself a hat next. And
maybe we'll sort that out. Awesome. Listen, we know from our research and from seeing you on the various things that you've done that you've been asked a whole ton of questions sort of about this, but tell us where we're catching you today, because that might lead into something we'll talk about later.
Oof. Wow. Today I'm done with my season officially, which is awesome. It's been a year of lots of things, to be honest. So, 2nd of January, I put my house on the market. Obviously, moving houses, takes a lot out of you. And then we kind of had nowhere to live. We had to find temporary sort of rental accommodation. And then my other half and I thought it'd be a great idea to start this new business venture, which we had been umming and ahhing about for about a year prior to that. And so we decided to start creating an ideas deck and, approaching our friends and family with the idea, rather than, presenting a pitch deck and asking for money. We said, let's go to people that we trust within the industry, friends, family, for their opinion, and then develop it from there. And we understood there was a market for it. And so that's where Gimme came to life. And then we started building a pitch deck and started raising money. So we sold our house, kind of had nowhere to go to, came up with a new business venture, starting raising money, which in this current climate isn't the easiest thing to do. It is genuinely one of the most hardest things I have ever experienced. And it's funny because reflecting back on my life, there's been a lot of stressful times, a lot of difficult times. And I really value all of those things, because I think it's really valuable, kind of character building to what we can all do. If it was all plain sailing for all of us, it'd be quite boring, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I would love to not have to do it again. and then, we, found another home whilst I was, on the road traveling so much. At one point I had 8 weeks away, Sky Sports, broadcasting. And if I had the opportunity to go home, there were 1-day turnarounds, not even having the time to do the washing and spending time with your friends and family. All of that kind of condensed in 1 year. I feel so fortunate for it to, actually be nothing negative. It's actually all very positive things. So I feel very, very lucky in that sense. But it was just physically, mentally, emotionally exhausting.
Yeah.
So, but, now we've set that all up, I feel so ready for 2026. And I'm absolutely not a New Year's person at all. I'm not thinking, 1st of Jan, here we go. I'm thinking as of, today.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Like, I feel so much better now. Kind of all of that has been done. But to answer your question, how am I doing? How's my year been? It's been a lot, but I feel good now.
And no one can prepare you, can they, for when you take a step into a venture like this? They can kind of give you an idea, but until you actually experience setting up something from scratch and everything that goes along with it, it's, as you said, quite a whirlwind experience.
Yeah, I think it's just like life, to be honest. And I've always said that golf is the greatest teacher in life, because you can hit the most perfect shot and get the terrible bounce, or you can hit an absolute shocker and then it rebounds off the tree and you can make a hole in one, on a par 3. I did actually nearly do that once upon a time. So I just think golf is such a great teacher in life. And I think same thing with this. There's no textbook, right? We've just hired someone, a new developer, and he said, look, I can do with coding, I can do domains, I can do this and that, but I don't have much experience about golf. I'm saying, look, none of us have all the answers for everything. It's not about knowing everything. The whole point is about being forever curious, trying to think outside the box, being really, productive. And it's all about execution, right? That's life. If we all just hang back and hope to kind of follow a textbook rule and how to follow life, we'd all be doing the same thing. So I'm not that bothered about it. It's, let's go out there, let's work it out, and let's all make those mistakes as we go along.
Yeah.
Because as long as you kind of react fast, then you can just steer the direction, right?
Yeah.
So I just think whether you're playing golf, starting a business, just going about life, it kind of all merges in the same sort of principles to a certain degrees. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my perspective on it anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even if you've got the right skill set, sometimes it's more important to have the right team in place, because then you can work through things together. It's no good having a cavalier or a bit of a maverick character in the team that's really, really good at their job, but isn't helping you move in the same direction. So, you said to us earlier that you've got someone coming in a little bit later. So hopefully it's the right kind of character for the business. But if we we'll come back to this, because we're really interested in talking about this this new idea. It's not so much new now. You're well involved with it, but we'll come back to that. If we rewind all the way back to the beginning, you started off sort of, or talk to us about the Wentworth days. How much did that shape your early golfing career, shall we say?
Yeah, so I started playing golf when I was 4.5, and I'm an only child. My mum's, been a single parent basically forever. I know science doesn't say that, but basically when I was born, my parents separated. And so my mum raised me, and because she was almost by herself, she had to keep me very occupied. And so I played golf. I played 4 different instruments. I played drum, guitar, violin, piano. I played every single, school sport you can imagine, golf, football or soccer, if you have an American audience, they were all kind of extra curricular activities that I managed to squeeze in. And so it was when I was probably about 11 years old when I just joined a golf club, and that was Royal Mid Surrey. So that's my home club in Richmond. That's where it really started for me.
Yep.
And I had, amazing kind of local coach that taught me the fundamentals. If you're a parent listening to this, I think it's really important to give your children the opportunity to get some basic lessons, because it's so easy to get into some bad habits, which makes it a lot harder down the road. And also encourage your children just to hit it as hard as possible. I think it's really important, especially if you look at the general consensus and like the shape of the sport right now. It is a lot of power, and you can at least wind that in or wheel it in. Whereas if it's all about hitting it straight, it's a lot more difficult at a later age to develop that power to a certain degree. And so I was obsessed with hitting golf balls, and eventually I guess I realized I was somewhat okay at it. And I think if I was to kind of reflect back on everything and do it all over again, I wish I'd spent more time on the golf course, because I became a range golfer. I was just pounding golf balls for fun, and I couldn't translate hitting balls on the range out on the course. And so it was probably when I was about 13, 14 years old, I got offered a scholarship to go to Wentworth as part of their kind of junior foundation program. And as we all know, it's an extremely prestigious club. They offered, some awesome coaching. Golf still to this day isn't particularly accessible, relatively expensive if you do it properly. There are accessible ways for sure. But yeah, I just needed all the support and help I can get, and that was kind of it as well. So I ended up leaving Royal Mid Surrey, going to Wentworth for a couple of years, really kind of developing, learning the game out on the golf course. And then eventually I couldn't rely on my mum driving me back and forth to and from Wentworth, because she'll literally just drop me off and just sit in the car park all day. Because there was almost like on the weekends, there was almost no point for her to go and come back. And if she did, she would come back at like 8 p.m.
Wow.
So it was kind of like one or the other. So I ended up going back to Royal Mid Surrey, and, I was really fortunate to, win all the club stuff, both at Royal Mid and Wentworth, and then the county stuff. And then, England Golf starts to recognise you. I won the county women's events as a 15-year-old, I think. I don't know if I still hold the record, but I held the record. And then, you play for the South region, and then England Golf and GB United, etc. So everything was very much natural progression for me. And then I went to tour school in 2016, mostly for experience. I kind of wanted to see, where I sat amongst the other pros. And then I think I finished 13th, 12th, 13th, 14th or something like that. And the top Brit, and I earned my full tour card. So I thought, okay, it's probably time to ditch school and turn pro, because I had so much clarity and desire and wanted to become a golfer. I very much wanted to go out there in the real world and just kind of play it through to a certain extent. So that was my kind of progression and journey through the amateur and junior ranks into how I got into professional golf.
What was that feeling like, suddenly being surrounded by people of a high quality? You already played with good players, but now you're playing with people from all over the world, trying to do the exact same thing that you are. What was that feeling stepping out, maybe on that first time out into the range, that you're surrounded?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Yeah, because, when I was an amateur, it was pretty straightforward. Not in an arrogant way, but golf came very naturally to me, and I had a bit of success. And so when you've got kind of a glimpse of success and you go into the professional stage where everyone's a lot better than you, a lot more experienced than you, I definitely had a sense of imposter syndrome. And my biggest mistake, it's very easy for me to kind of reflect on everything now, is to look back on it. And I had a real issue of comparing myself to others. So it's funny because I'm friends with Lydia Ko now, and I kind of told Lydia Ko this at the Evian last year. But, I would look at her, for instance. She was 14 years old, hot off the blocks, PGA Tour events. Look at Gino now. She's 22, I think. She just won back-to-back $4 million checks. And so I think especially in the women's game, you get talent very early on. And I kind of think it's leaning towards that way just because of, when you're ready to have kids, if you want children, your body changes and all that jazz. So you kind of, in my mind anyway, need to make it a lot sooner. And so for me, I unfortunately compare myself to others, and that almost planted like an element of doubt. And again, leaning on that imposter syndrome. What am I doing here? I'm 18 and I've not won a professional tournament yet. And so I think that kind of unfortunately held me back a little bit. And so, I think it is really important that you can reflect on things and learn from it. If I did it all over again, I wish I just stayed in my own lane a little bit more, because I was talented and I was really awesome tee to green, and there was definitely room for improvement in, whether it's holing out, putting and short game. But it just shows how important it is upstairs.
Yeah, it's a massive thing. I'm huge on that side of things, and I've spoken to a lot of young golfers, a lot of golfers that didn't realise their potential in the professional game. And do you think that there needs to be more of an emphasis on mentorship, and equally somebody like yourself actually, not that you didn't, but younger players actually listening and being guided? Because of course we have these hindsight conversations, don't we, about what could have been, what lanes, what doors would have been opened. But in terms of guidance, do you think that that's something that might have helped you a bit more?
Maybe. I can only speak from obviously my personal sort of experience. I wouldn't want to speak on anyone else's behalf, because
Sure.
I think everyone's so different. Everyone's got really different backgrounds, different environments, different influences. So again, I don't think there's that almost textbook in saying what's right. From personal experience, mentorship is massive.
Right.
And I've had mentors in life and I've had mentors in golf. And if it wasn't for them, I don't think, I'd be able to achieve what I have or been able to do what I've done. So, I always look at golf, and I've always said how golf is an individual sport, but it's actually, it's actually made up of teams. You look at all these professional golfers, they've got their coaches, but not just a coach. They've got many coaches, whether they break down the game to putting, short game, long game, psychology. And so when it comes to mentorship, I just think, what is the definition of a mentor? I don't know from a dictionary perspective, but it's probably someone who's kind of been there, done that to a certain extent, has a level of expertise in that department, and has also interest in supporting your journey. It's not a monetized thing, really. I think a true definition of a mentor. So I think it's also a very difficult thing to find. I can't just say, I want you to be my mentor. You can't just point them out and grab them in. It's quite an organic thing. And again, I think it does lean on the harder you work, the luckier you get. And I do kind of put that whole mentor bracket in the same compartment, because the harder you work, the luckier you get, the more that people want to help you. And that's where your mentors could potentially, come in as well. So yeah, I think it's a very authentic, organic, but valuable thing. And if you can have a mentor, absolutely, consider yourself as an extremely lucky person.
Looking back, that's just going on from that. Looking back, was there a particular person who really stands out that really helped you just take that next step and push you a bit where you really needed it? Was there anybody in your life that?
Yeah. So in, let's say, life, I've got a family friend who basically helped me choose the right schools. I went to Wellington College for sixth form, which is, again, a very prestigious school, but I got offered a scholarship for it. And I think they offered me like 95%. My mum said, I can't afford 5%, so I guess you can't go. And that mentor kind of, butted in and said, no, just ask for 100% then. It was a Duke of Edinburgh scholarship. And so things like that made a huge impact in my life because it gave you an opportunity to go to an amazing school. Felt like Hogwarts, to be honest, which is very cool. And they filmed The Crown there. Also, we had a golf course at school and we had access to coaches again. Even that sort of, tiny little suggestion made a massive impact in my life. Suggesting, and I'm just trying to think with the golf side of things and going into the media side of things. Robert Lee is a colleague of mine. And I remember it was during the pandemic when I first got into working in the studio, and no one was allowed out their house. We could, do outdoor activities. So golf being golf, that was one of the sports that we could play. So Rob and I would go to Romitori because he's a member there as well. And he would pull out a driver and almost hold it like this, like the boom mic that we had during the pandemic. I don't know if you watched the in-round interviews back then, but because we had like the 2-meter rule, you couldn't just interview someone by holding the mic. So we used a bit of a driver to kind of imitate holding the boom mic. And, he would tell me almost what I would hear through my earpiece, what the producer would say, how to tee up your first question. So from a mentorship, again, like I never really asked him to be my mentor, but one, he's an awesome bloke and he's a good guy, but he's really passionate in what he does. He definitely helped mentor me from a media side of things. And even to this day, like I will go out on a week on tour and he will text me saying, you didn't say this, or like, you didn't mention that, or that was really good. So he still kind of tunes in, to this day, which is quite funny.
Love
and
that.
Sometimes I just ignore him now. No,
When it got towards the end of your professional playing career, was there anything that you began to, despise is far too strong a word, as is hate, maybe begrudge? Is there something, did you begin to fall out of love with a particular element, or was it just a realization, do you know what, this isn't for me?
It's funny that, isn't it? Because I've listened to some podcasts recently and I listened to, people in similar sort of positions to me kind of say their point. And, Rachel Drummond's a good friend of mine. I listened to her podcast on the Rick Shields one. And, she still absolutely adores this game. And she, as far as I'm aware, never really fully fell out of love with the game.
Right.
Whereas I definitely experienced that. And I've spoken to other colleagues and it's kind of like one way or another.
Sure.
I won't name names. I think it's for them to say publicly. But, I definitely fell out of love with the game because I was in a position where I gave it so much.
Yeah.
And it wasn't the kind of same transaction, if you know what I mean, because this sport is pretty damn hard. And so I had tendonitis in both my wrists, predominantly on my left. I've got a bulge disc in my lower back, which I'm still struggling with to this day. And so, I had a load of injury, which stopped me from playing as well, stopped me from practicing. And all those factors obviously have an impact on your performance. And so, again, the harder you try to a certain extent and not having the same results, having been injured in that, it just absolutely ruined me. So, I'd say even after packing it in 2020, that was a period probably where I really hated the game because of everything it did to me. I just thought, I gave you all of me and you give me nothing back and now I'm broken. So that was really tough.
Did it go as far as I'm happy to stay in and around the game, but I actually don't want to pick up a club for a while?
Yeah, it was probably one of those because, I didn't want to pick up a club because there was no point anymore. I played this game in the past because I had a sense of purpose. I had a clear goal. I had something to work towards. So I've never played golf for fun, really, apart from having just started the game. It was always, really trying to achieve something. And that's sort of my personality as well. Whatever I try and do, I get quite obsessed with it and I just really go for it. And so I reckon after kind of retiring, I didn't really play for 2 years, didn't really touch a club for 2 years because, like I said, I just didn't really see any point. Who's got time to play golf for fun? Whereas now my perspective on it's very different. It's a complete luxury. If I get to play and I get to play with my friends in a nice course, I absolutely love the game. Unfortunately, I don't have as much time anymore, but my perspective on it is completely different. It's done a whole 360, but it's taken quite a long time to get there.
Yeah, yeah. That transition though into working with Sky, um,
Mm.
was that like, and how did that opportunity come about?
Yeah, it was really cool and it was really exciting as well. Obviously, during the pandemic, the world was just a really weird, funky place. And I didn't really know what direction to go towards. You know, the tour itself lost loads of events, so there weren't as many tournaments to play in. I was really fortunate with kind of like the support and sponsors I had, but I also had a lot of support during my junior years. You know, I mentioned my scholarships and stuff like that. And so I kind of got fed up of, not fed up of people wanting to help me. It's probably not the right way to put it. It's almost like trying to fuel my ego of, right, I've got to make my own gold now. It's almost that stubbornness of, I appreciate your help and everything that you've done for me, but I need to accept that I haven't made it now. I need to figure this out myself. And so I think that's kind of always been one of my strengths and weaknesses, almost that sense of independence. And so I had to kind of find an alternative. And Henny, who I guess was my colleague, she's obviously just left now to go to live,
Yep.
is a friend of mine as well and has been for a long time. And I know that she, you know, played on tour and got into media and was trying to build out her career in media. I just thought, well, if she can do it, you know, hopefully I can too.
Yeah.
So
Nice.
that gave me the confidence of being able to give it a go. So that really, you know, makes it so obvious and, you know, highlights the importance of having a role model in that sense, right? And representation, if I hadn't seen her do it, then I probably wouldn't have given it a go.
Of course.
So yeah, that was kind of my calling, I think, to give it a go. And thankfully I had an opportunity to be in the studio, which was a terrifying experience.
Right.
You're like in quite a small room with massive cameras and lights. And I remember Sarah Stark, you know, asked me such a basic question. I couldn't even answer it because I was that petrified. Your heart starts beating out of your chest and you start being incredibly conscious of what you're about to say or what you want to say or what you're going to say. So then you start stumbling about your words because you don't ever think about what you're going to say. And so the whole experience was absolutely horrible. And I thought, I'm never going to be welcome back again. Of course, it all felt so much worse than, you know, the reality of it. All
Yeah. Of
when you
course.
watch it back, it's nowhere near as bad as what it felt, as, you know, like. But I really did think that was kind of the end of me, and I have to figure out an alternative. But thankfully, we're still here, and I get to travel the world now and commentate and broadcast on tour.
Yeah, no, I get to see on TV that like you, Radar, and I get to go on to the course and really get into the action still. Is that,
Mm.
do you prefer doing that than being in the studio and everything?
It's a very popular question. Everyone asks me all the time, do you prefer doing on course over doing the in rounds or post rounds or stuff in the studio, etc.? But it's really hard to say. And again, maybe it's a bit of my personality. I almost don't like to sit still. I get bored of something if I do one thing constantly. And so I really enjoy the variation. I love being out on course. I love being in the studio. I've loved experiencing some of the AR stuff that we get to do. I've loved, you know, speaking to the players. It's a real opportunity to get to know them and, you know, also be out there during the tournament weeks to study the golf courses and get to know the coaches and tap into what they're working on. Or, you know, you might speak to 3 different coaches working on similar sort of things, but all attacking it in very different ways. So yeah, I've really enjoyed, like I said, the whole variation of getting to do a bit of everything. So I definitely couldn't pinpoint like one role that
Yeah.
I love because I definitely love them all.
Yeah.
So what does a typical, you know, tournament week look like
Mm.
for you from prep to sign off?
So wake up. It's always a good start. I'm not really a breakfast person, so I'll probably skip that. And then I just start my prep. So let's say I'm just on coursing and I travel on a Tuesday. So Tuesday, Wednesday are my opportunities to really look at the course, speak to the players, speak to the coaches. Does it suit your eye or what you're working on? Just try and get as much insight and nuggets, we call them, possible.
Yep.
And, you know, you might also have your notes from the previous year. So if I have the same yardage book from last year, I'll look at
Okay.
those pin positions. So whilst I'm going out on the golf course, I can look at those similar sort of spots. I'm quite thorough with my note taking as well. So I'll also write down the wind direction of last year every single day. And so for each round, I know, you know, how the hole played, for instance, when I'm reflecting back to it. So I'll do the same thing. I'll kind of compare those notes, see if it's the same sort of strategy, same sort of play, or if it's done a 180, or if we've had a really dry summer, it's baked out the golf course. If it's been really wet, where the greens are super receptive, the targets are playing a lot bigger. You've got to ask yourself all these questions week in, week out. Have they put new bunkers in? Is the texture the same or different? So from a kind of personal prep perspective, there's so much I can do. But the real value is really identifying everything that the player that you're going to commentate on has to offer. So I would ideally try and watch them play a couple of holes, see if their shot shape's the same, see if their team's the same. So when it comes to commentating about them, your notes are up to date. It's as accurate as possible. I'll get the stock yardages as well, because we don't get any signaling like they do in America of what club they're hitting. So, these pros, a lot of them are so creative. Again, there's no textbook in how far you hit everything. The condition is such finite effects. So yes, it's a 7-iron yardage, but it might be uphill blowing into the breeze. So I've got to calculate now what club I think they're going to hit. So I don't want to say it's guesswork. It's kind of, as accurate as possible sort of thing. But you're working within your means and what you've got to be able to provide all that information. Again, you just overload yourself with info, and you probably get given like 2 seconds to say something.
Right. Wow.
So it's a classic. If you speak to any broadcaster, lead commentator, out of the kind of their 100% of notes, they'll use 5% of it, if that. And so it's just trying to do as much preparation as possible. And you speak to the likes of Nick Doherty. They're all phenomenal preppers. They all are. But I've spoken to him about this. I said, how do you just stand up there and just do what you do? And he just says, you just got to know it inside out.
Yeah.
So I thought, that kind of makes sense. So you've got to be as thorough as possible with your preparation to be able to come across as effortless as possible. But it's definitely not as easy as, how some of our best and kind of leading presenters and commentators make it look, because it looks so seamless.
Yeah, I can imagine live TV as well brings a whole new level.
It's way better. Honestly, it's so fun. I just think when it comes to pre-recorded stuff, it feels as though it's got to be perfect. Because it's pre-recorded, you can have as many goes as you like. I'm sure when you do your intros in the very beginning, you probably did it over and over again a couple of times, right?
Absolutely.
It's like, maybe not, maybe you're one-hit wonders, but generally speaking, whenever something's pre-recorded, even from the camera operator's perspective, they want to show everything that you're talking about and mentioning. Even though if I, as the person in front of camera, nailed it, maybe they wanted to show something else, you end up doing it the whole thing again, and then maybe I made a little mistake. So with stuff that's pre-recorded, I don't like the perfection side of things. I find it very shiny. Whereas with live TV, I kind of always revert back to This Morning Show. That's all live in the morning. And I love it when they stumble or make a little mistake or get the giggles or whatever it is. That's live TV for you. So I just think from an interaction perspective, it's way better and a lot more enjoyable and a lot more real, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. It's more relatable. It makes you feel more comfortable and as if you're part of the conversation. I know I listen to other podcasts, and when you hear the guests just walk in, you can hear them off camera chatting or something. You feel like you're in a waiting room waiting for them to come in, kind of thing. And I love the whole feel of it.
Yeah, it's like when we're at the Open, we've got the zone, right, or the Sky Zone, and I remember having to, go in for the pre or post round shows and that, and they'll bring up a clip of, I don't know, John Rahm hitting a shot out of the bunker, and it was a really, really awkward stance. It's for me to explain what I saw when I was out there on course and try and recreate the line, that stance, and just say how difficult it is. But this is how you do it. This is how you attack it, and this is what you're trying to do. And they go, well, go on then. So now I need to stand in the bunker and try and recreate the shot, and the ball doesn't go out of the bunker. But because it's live TV, that was, comedy gold. That was hilarious. We can kind of take the mickey out of ourselves and show how hard it is. Whereas if it was pre-recorded, you probably kind of hack at it again or do the whole thing again until the ball comes out. So I just think live TV is a much better and a lot truer reflection of everything as well.
Yeah,
amazing.
sure.
Have you had any chaotic moments or things that you look back and think, well, that was not planned. That was hilarious. That stand out to you?
I'm just trying to think. Yes, in the very, very beginning, it's probably not my proudest moment. I was basically brand new to the role, and so I didn't really understand all the lingos in TV. And one of them was, this is on a delay. I had no idea what that meant. So what that means is it's not live TV. We're still showing live TV, but we're going to insert your interview that you're doing right now, but it might be 10 or 15 seconds later. So it kind of comes across. It's all live. You don't have an opportunity to stop and start again.
Right.
But it's just starting a lot later. So if you trip up, just keep going. And so everything up till now had been pre-recorded, which means you record it, they send it through, and then they push it out. Because I was literally like brand new. It's like almost like a safety net, right? And so whenever I do it, I had my ears completely down, so I can't hear any of the comms or TV or program. And I was doing this interview with Garrick Higo when he won, I think, in Tenerife. And he was quite nervous. It was the first time he was in contention. He was in the final group of a Sunday. And he started crab walking almost like to the side of the fairway. And he almost came to a complete halt. And I thought he looking around for a portaloo or something. I thought, this is a walk and talk. Why have you stopped? And so I kind of cut the interview short. I just said, do you know what? Best of luck. And, hopefully we'll catch you later. So I let him just carry on with the walk. But that whole thing was live, essentially.
Right.
And so having thought it may have been pre-recorded, I just kind of radioed back saying, don't send that out. And it was already sent out. So that was really awkward for me from like a professional standpoint. I just felt like a little ant in this big universe. Because, a lot of people do watch golf, and someone I know in Switzerland messaged me saying like, nice interview. So I thought, that's the end of me.
Still here.
I think we all have our moments where you just kind of have to learn from it and just carry on to a certain extent. Everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, 100%.
But now I definitely know what delayed means.
And you're still here 5 years later. You must be doing something right. Just talking about women's golf, because there's a couple of subjects we want to get in, and we're conscious a little bit of time. Where do you think women's golf is right now, and what do you think the biggest barrier and opportunity is in the women's game?
Yeah, I think overall it's in a great place if you compare it to where it's been, say 5 years ago when I played, or even, prior to that. I think it's got a long way to go still, but that, if you're kind of comparing it to the men's game, I think that gap's always going to feel incredibly large. There's so much money in the men, whether it's on Live or DP World Tour, PGA Tour, the prize funds that they're playing for is just out of this world. It's obviously not quite the same in the women's game. However, now women are able to play this sport and make a decent living out of it, whereas they couldn't before. Because what people forget is, even 5 years ago, wow, someone's won a 40,000-60,000 pound check, which again was totally incomparable to the men's game. Yes, it's a lot of money, but people forget they may have missed a load of cuts leading up to that, or how much it actually costs to go on tour. Paying for all your air fees, your entry fees, your flights, your food and accommodation, caddy, and everything that comes with it. So I mean, nowadays there's so much more money and opportunity in the women's game, and also going into 26 from a broadcasting perspective, I know there's been a huge injection of investment as well. So all of these things are amazing for the women's game. Prior to this, we didn't have the same sort of graphics or the same number of microphones out there, not picking up the same dialogue between player and caddy. Now going into 26, I know on the LPGA Tour, there'll definitely be a lot more of that. I think they've doubled the number of camera operators as well. So all of these things are only going to help get more eyeballs on the women's game. I think every round on the LPGA Tour will get shown on some sort of main channel, whereas before that, it might be on like a separate button or something. So yeah, I think it's definitely moving in the right direction. It will always feel like a large gap, but it's a lot better now than where it was before.
Yeah, for sure.
Good. Yeah, no, I'm pleased to hear that we keep our eyes on a lot of the tournaments and a lot of players. Some of the coaches that we spoke to work very closely with a lot of professional golfers. Jamie Donaldson, who does the Aim Point, and Justin Rose has set up a wonderful little tour, hasn't he? Which is hopefully getting more traction. But yeah, there's definitely a bridge to be gapped, a gap to be bridged rather, in terms of it. Now, earlier we spoke about the setup of ultimately what you're doing now. We've gone from junior golfer to professional golfer to broadcaster. Quite a portfolio on your CV right there, but you are sitting in the office of Gimme Market, I presume.
Yes, Gimme HQ, we like to call it. We're
Amazing.
located in Marlow, in Buckinghamshire, which is awesome. And yeah, we've got 1,300 square feet here. It's probably way too big for us, but we got a bit of a deal. So we're super happy with that. We're a team of 5.5, 6, 7. It depends.
Yep.
Got a couple of freelancers as well. And it's just been such a fun journey. I kind of hesitate because it's been tough. Like it's not been seamlessly, easy. And I think starting up a business isn't, but I've challenged. And, we touched on the process of raising money, for instance, and not having a textbook with all the answers. That's the kind of part of the challenge of what we do. But it's also, you can build something great and no one know about you as well. So it's
Absolutely.
making sure you're marketing it correctly. There's similar competitors out there, let's say, who have an app version, but for us it was really important to not spend loads of money on building an app, because I'd much rather have users come onto our site and buy and sell, and for us to iterate and acquire those users sooner, and then get an app in the future if need be. Whereas if you have an app, you need to rely on to go to the app store, download an app, create an account, and then list. So I guess for people tuning in, Gimme is a platform where you can buy and sell golf equipment, predominantly in the secondhand market, and we've got Pro Shop approved stock. So that's where Pro Shops, list their kind of end of line and excess stock, which might be brand new, but it's no
Yep.
longer the latest. And the easiest way to see it is almost like the Auto Trader, the vintage, but for golf equipment. So understanding the pain points when it comes to buying and selling golf equipment. Obviously, if you're a seller, the first question you ask yourself is, where do I find a box from? Or, where's the nearest post office where they'll accept such a large box? So that's, something that we basically do. And then as a buyer, it's providing that expert-led, guidance of golf equipment being very technical items, being for example, a 20 handicapper. I might have no idea what to buy. I'm just scrolling through this menu of clubs. I don't understand what the shafts and lofts I should be in.
Right.
And so it's not like having the extent of a custom fit, but again, it's having that guidance between, should I be getting cavity bats or blades, or I'm a big slicer of the golf one looking for draw bias head. Which ones can you suggest me? Because if you just go on a marketplace at the moment, it's kind of, you're in it by yourself. There's no guidance. So that we just really wanted to lean on providing that expert-led guidance, knowing that golf equipment's really technical part of the business. So that's pretty much what we do. There's obviously so much more to it. We're also trying to build out the content side of things as well. So it's just one of those things. You've never done it all. You're constantly just trying to figure it all out and iterate fast. But it's a big project for sure. But we've got an amazing team now, so we're good to go.
And what kind of feedback are you getting from early users of the business?
Yeah, on the whole, really good. We're actually in a bit of a quiet patch now because we wanted to do where we didn't want to rave about it. We wanted to acquire like very organic customers and users and speak to them independently and say, how was your experience? What was this like? And we would, again, iterate very fast. And then now from a back end sort of system, now we've raised basically all of our money pretty much. We wanted to make sure from a development perspective, everything is set up correctly. So when it comes to buying stuff, all the integrations, basically you get a text, which is linked to our courier system, which is linked to, all these things as aligned as seamlessly as possible. So we're actually kind of, now we've set up and understand our, let's say, teething kind of pain points. We're making those amendments and we're now just tidying up the house, let's say. Come 1st of January, we are so ready to scale, if that makes sense. You'll hear a lot more of us. We'll be making as much noise as possible. We'll be in a much better position just to multiply. So for us this month, it's very much about kind of tidying up and strengthening our pillars. But yeah, early next year, we just want to really go for it and scale.
Love
Amazing.
that. I mean, as someone who is fully addicted to Facebook Marketplace, and
Get off there, Chris, get off there.
it's not even that. It's just the random things that I can get, not just golf clubs, but for golf clubs, I know that having somewhere specific for it and knowing that I can look for the certain specs that I need and really dive deep into it. It sounds amazing to me.
Yeah. I mean, like, for example, when I said that we're tidying up the back end, we've got maybe 5,000 clubs that we can list, and we've listed about 700. And so someone needs to manually list the 5,000 clubs. So again, like I mentioned, that this is a bit of a quiet patch just because we've got someone basically on a freelance basis just doing that one at a time when they've got a chance. So it's things like that. We're just looking to tidy up. So soon you can get off Facebook Marketplace, Chris, and you can
Don't worry.
start shopping on Gimme Market.
I'm addicted to it. I'm fully addicted.
I love the idea though, and the spec and the advice element. That's pretty cool for someone who doesn't know what they want. That's actually quite a USP I hadn't really thought about. I mean, without going into major rabbit holes, where do you see Gimme Market in 5 to 10 years? What's your plan for it?
Obviously, I hope that they're the go-to marketplace when it comes to golf equipment. We're toying around with other ideas of should we do clothes as well, but then I kind of go back on myself because I'm, Vinted's there, right? So as a trial run, we actually sold a couple of shoes on Vinted that we had hosted. Because a lot of pro shops gave us feedback that they wanted to sell their brand new shoes because they're big, bulky items, and they just went like that. So it shows that there's a market there, but they've obviously acquired all the buyers and sellers. I think it's just reminding ourselves, why did we start this in the first place? We started this because golf equipment's not an easy thing to shop for online. A lot of people want to kind of hit them first and see what they're like. But because they're secondhand, it's obviously a lot more affordable, especially when it comes to individual sellers. So respectfully, we do know the guy at Clubs for Cash, and we went there and they showed us around, which is really kind of them, and that they're an amazing team. But they can't offer you a better value because they've got all the OPEX in the middle. They've got the warehouse. They need to refurb everything, whereas we don't own any of the stock. So our OPEX is in the middle, extremely small. So the whole point of Gimme is that sellers can sell for more and buyers can buy it for cheaper. So, I really hope that Gimme becomes the go-to place for hopefully pro shops to have online presence, because if you think of all the pro shops dotted around all over the country, if you went on their golf club website, you would have no idea what equipment they stock. Yeah. And so, I walked into Octoloni's in Scotland, which is a pre-owned shop, and I said, do you guys have any sort of online presence, or do you rely on footfall for sales? And they said it's footfall. So that kind of baffled my mind. If we can get all the pro shops in the country to list all their end of line and excess stock on Gimme, and get individuals to list on Gimme as well as a secondhand marketplace to help the sport be more affordable, then I think we'd be in an awesome place. And we absolutely do want to go to town in America with this in a couple of years. But again, I almost don't want to think too far ahead of ourselves. And I just want to nail the fundamentals, in the UK first. So yeah, that's kind of our goal and aspirations.
Awesome.
Love that.
Well, I think we'll see it continue to grow from strength to strength because it's got some good backing. You're all over Instagram and the team, and I know your colleague, your partner, in fact, I think you've got a little podcast and bits and pieces that you're doing. So keep doing what you're doing.
That's not my partner.
All right.
Nick's not my partner. Business partner. No, so my co-founder is my partner. He's my fiance. So we've kind of set this up together. We've got Nick, who's our head of equipment, who you've probably seen us do the podcasts with.
Got it.
And then we've got Luce, who's our head of ops, and then Damchin, who's our developer. We've got Spence, who's our videographer editor. So it's quite the team for sure.
Absolutely.
But yeah, no, it's good fun.
Cool. Well, look, I know time's a premium. You've got a business to run today. Thank you so much for joining us, Inci. Looking forward to seeing where things go next.
Not at all. Thanks so much for having me, guys. And I'm looking forward to my cap arriving soon.
No worries.